Greetings, beautiful people. Welcome back to Find XYZ. If you are new to my channel, please subscribe. We are still on the road to WASSCE 2026. Let's try this question. A trader bought gin oranges for an amount of 48,000 Ghana cedis. She found that 40 of them were rotten. She then sold all the remaining oranges. The selling price of one orange was 100 Ghana cedis, more than the cost price. We have been tasked to do several things. The first part is we are going to find in terms of G, I, the cost price of one orange, I, the number of oranges that were sold, I, the selling price of one orange, and IV, an expression for the total sum that she received from the sale. This should be in terms of G. Then the second part, we have been told that if she made a profit of 12,000 Ghana cedis from the sales, we have been tasked to find two things. The first one is the number of oranges she originally bought, then the cost price for an orange. So let's dive in. What do we know? We know that a number of oranges were bought for a certain amount. And what is the amount? So we know the number of oranges bought, that is J. What was the amount? So this becomes the cost price, 48,000 cedis. Then something happened. 40 of the oranges were rotten. Then the last information is that she sold all the remaining oranges. So the selling price for one orange was 100 cedis more than the cost price. So it means that if we have the cost price, we'll have 100 cedis more. So it means that the woman added 100 cedis to the cost price to get her selling price. So let's, in place of selling price, I write SP is equal to CP plus 100. In order for us to get the selling price, we need to add 100 to the cost price. Now let's dive in. The first part, we have been tasked to find the cost price of one orange. Now, what was the cost price of all the oranges? That is 48,000 Ghana cedis. How would we identify the cost price for just one orange? Now let's listen to this scenario. Imagine you are buying WASSCE one at a cost of 10 cedis and you are buying 20 of them. That would be 10 times 20. That would be 200 cedis. So let's assume that you didn't know the amounts that each cost. Then you have been given that the total cost for the WASSCE is 200 cedis. So because we multiply the 10 by the 20 to get the 200, the opposite of multiplication is division. So if we want to know the unit cost, we have to divide by the number of WASSCE that we bought. And how many did we buy? We bought 20 of them. So that will give us 10 cedis. It means that each WASSCE costs 10 Ghana cedis. So we are going to apply the same logic here. We know that the total cost for all the oranges was 48,000 Ghana cedis. It means that if we want to know the unit cost, we have to divide by the total number of oranges. And what is the total number of oranges? That is G. So divide this by G. So the cost price for one orange is 48,000 divided by G, which represents the number of oranges. So take note of that. So this represents the cost price for one orange. Then the second part, II, the number of oranges that were sold. How many oranges was initially bought? That is G. Then what happened to the number of oranges? We realized that 40 of them went bad. Then the woman sold the rest. So it means that for us to get the number of oranges that were sold, we have to take out the rotten oranges, and taking out means subtracting. So we have to take away 40 oranges from the total number of oranges that were bought because they were rotten. So it means that G minus 40 will now represent the number of oranges that were sold. Then I, the selling price of one orange. Now we know the cost price, right? This is the cost price for one orange. Then we have been tasked to identify the selling price for one orange. Now we know that the selling price was 100 more than the cost price. So let's write that. So selling price for one orange is equal to the cost price plus 100 Ghana cedis. But what is the cost price? We have been able to identify the cost price for one orange. So we will substitute that here. That is 48,000 divided by G plus 100. Then means that this will be our selling price, which is 48,000 over G plus 100. Remember, we're told to write our answers in terms of G. So notice this has G, this has G, and now our selling price is in terms of G. Then the last part in the first part, that is IV, an expression for the total sum that she received from the sale. So if the trader is selling each orange at this amount, and how many is the woman selling? That is G minus 40. If we want the total, we just have to multiply, right? So an expression will be the number of oranges sold, which is G minus 40, multiplying the selling price. And what is the selling price? That is 48,000 over G plus 100. This is the expression for the total sum that the woman received from the sale. Now take note, the total sum that we are looking for that the woman will receive at the end of the sale, it is basically asking us for the selling price for all the oranges, right? So because this represents the number of oranges sold, then this part represents the selling price for each orange. When we multiply them, we are going to get the selling price for all the oranges that were sold. So take note of that. That is the first part. So we have everything set up. We know the cost price is 48,000 over G. Let me bring the currency, which is cedis. Then the number of oranges that were sold was G minus 40, and the selling price is 48,000 over G plus 100 cedis. So this is cedis. Then this is also cedis because the currency that we are using is cedis. Then to the B part. If she made a profit of 12,000 Ghana cedis from the sale, we have been tasked to identify the number of oranges that she originally bought. So profit 12,000 cedis. Now, anytime you are dealing with selling price, cost price, profit related problems, know that whenever you are operating a business and you make a profit, it means that your selling price was greater than your cost price. That is why you are arriving at a profit, right? So we know that profit will be the selling price minus the cost price. So for example, if you bought a product at 5 cedis and you are selling it at 7 Ghana cedis, you are going to make a profit of 2 cedis because the selling price is greater than the cost price. And when you take the difference between the two, you are going to get your profit. So what was the cost price? We know that the cost price was giving us 48,000 cedis. So it means that our selling price will be more than 48,000 Ghana cedis, but we don't know yet. However, we have been given the profit, which is 12,000 cedis. So it means that if I add the 48,000 to the 12,000, it will give me my selling price because the difference gave me the profit. So if I want to know the selling price, I will just have to add the profit to the cost price to know the selling price. So now I can say that the selling price is equal to the cost price, which is 48,000, plus the profit, which is 12,000 cedis. 48,000 plus 12,000 give us 60,000 cedis. So this is the amount that the woman will gather after the whole process. You realize that we know that the selling price, we have an expression for that here. Let me bring it back. So we have G minus 40 multiplying 48,000 over G plus 100. That is the selling price. And now we have been able to identify the selling price. So it means that this whole expression should give us 60,000 cedis because that represents the selling price. Okay, so we are going to solve this equation and identify the number of oranges that were bought. So you realize that the number of oranges that were bought was represented as G. So let's go ahead and solve this equation. So we expand this term here. So G will multiply the whole of this term, and then negative 40 also multiply the whole of this term. So this is what I'll write. So G multiplying 480,000 over G plus 100, and then negative 40 will also multiply 48,000 over G plus 100. Everything should give us 60,000. Then we expand. So we have 48,000 plus 100 G. Negative 40 times 48,000 over G will give us 1,920,000 cedis over G. Then negative 40 times 100 will give us negative 4,000. Everything should give us 60,000 cedis. Then what can we do? We can clear the fraction. So by multiplying each term, how many terms do we have? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we are going to multiply each term by G. So 48,000 times G will give us 48,000 G plus 100 times G will give us 100 G squared. Then this term times G will eliminate the G. So now we have 1,920,000 cedis minus 4,000 G is equal to 60,000 G. Then what can we do? We can group them. So we have G, we have another G, we have another G. We can pull them together. Then we realize that we have a quadratic term. So let's bring that term first. So we have 100 G squared, then plus 48,000 G minus 4,000 G. Then this is 60,000 G. It comes to the left hand side, it will be negative 60,000 G. Then we have minus 1,920,000 cedis is equal to what is left here, 0, because we have moved this from there. Let's pull everything together. So 48,000 G minus 4,000 G minus 60,000 G. Since they are all G, we can group them. So we have 100 G squared minus 16,000 G minus 1,920,000 cedis. Everything is equal to 0. Then what can we do? We can divide everything by 100 since they are all divisible by 100. So we divide this term by 100, this term by 100, this term also by 100, and lastly the 0 by 100. This is an equation, so always you want to achieve fairness. Then 100 divides 100, then 100 also divides 16,000. We are left with this 160G. Then 100 divides 1,920,000. So we are left with just 19,200. This is equal to 0. So we have our quadratic equation set up. How can we solve this quadratic equation? Fortunately for us, the coefficient of g squared is 1. And then we have negative 19,200. So the coefficient of g squared times the constant term, which is 19,200. When we multiply them, we are going to get negative 19,200. Then we look for a pair of factors that will give us the middle term, negative 160. So what two factors can give us that value? So the two numbers will be 240 and then 80. Now watch this. When we multiply 240 times 80, that will give us 19,200. But which of these numbers should I negate in order for me to get negative 160? Then I have to negate the bigger number. That is why when you multiply this, you get this. And when you add the 2, you get the middle term, which is negative 160. So let's substitute that. So now we are going to have g squared minus 240g plus 80 g minus 19,200. Everything should give us 0. So watch this. This term is the same as negative 160g. We have not changed anything. So consider the first two terms. What is common among the two? That is g. So we pull g out. We have two of them. So how many left? One left. Minus g is out. What is left? 240. So when you expand, you are still supposed to get the original expression. Then it's 19,200 divisible by 80. Yes, it is divisible by 80. Watch here. Since we are able to express it as a product of 240 and 80, it means that 80 can divide 19,200. So the common term will be 80. Then what is left? You realize that since it is divisible by 80, we will be left with 240. So once g is out, minus 240 is equal to 0. Now watch this. Always, after doing this work, the terms inside the bracket must always be identical. So this is what we are going to do. We are going to pick the factors, which is g plus 80, put it in one basket. Then we'll pick one of the bracket as g minus 240. This is equal to 0. Now we have two linear factors that is given as 0. So it means that one of them is 0 or both of them are 0. That's the only time that we are going to get 0. So we have g plus 80 should give us 0. Subtract 80 from both sides. G is equal to negative 80. Or g minus 240 is 0. So we have g to be equal to 240. When we move this to this side, the negative will change to positive. So we have two values for g. Which of them do you think we should select for our answer? The number of oranges cannot be negative. So it means that per the problem, this will not be selected. Therefore, the number of oranges that were originally in the box were 240 oranges. Then to the last part of the question, we have been tasked to find the cost price for an orange. Now what is the cost price for an orange? The cost price for an orange was given as 480,000 over g. Now we know g, so we'll just bring this, substitute, and then we know our cost price. So let's do that. So the last part, which is I, the cost price is 48,000 over the total number of oranges. Now we know the total number of oranges, so we'll do 48,000 divided by g. And what is g? G is 240. 0 cancel 0. How many? 24 and 48? Definitely 2. So the cost price will now be 200 cedis. So one orange will cost 200 cedis. One orange will cost 200 cedis. Now what's something? Realize that we started by saying that selling price was the cost price plus 100. Now if we know the cost price now is 200 cedis, watch this. So 200 cedis plus 100 cedis, that will give us 300 cedis. So it means that the selling price was 300 cedis. How many oranges were sold? The number of oranges that were sold was g minus 40. Now we know g. So g is 240 minus 40. That will leave us with just 200. We know that this represents the number of oranges that were sold. This represents the selling price for each orange. Now when we multiply them, let's see what will happen. So 300 times 200, 3 times 2, that will give us 6. Then we add the zeros, so we are left with 60,000 cedis. This represents the selling price, which we identified. You realize that this is 60,000 Ghana cedis. Do you see that? So everything fall in line. So the cost price for the orange is 200 cedis per one. That must be some heavenly orange. All right, so that is all I have for you for today. If you found this helpful, kindly leave a comment, tag at least 10 friends, and share this video to all your friends, your family, your friends, your enemies. Share to everybody. I'll be back with another one. I'm out.